Welcome, 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 everyone. We are on. We made it. Thank you guys so much for your patience and waiting patiently for us to log on. We were having a little bit of technical difficulties, but Josh is here and he is the guest of honor. Welcome,
Yes,
Josh.
yes. Welcome. Can you hear me fine on that end?
Yeah, I can
All
hear you.
right, all right. Sorry, guys. Just, champions adjust, and we definitely figured it out.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. So, Josh, how's it going over there?
Everything is great, just enjoying life and staying focused with everything. But everything is definitely great. Thanks for asking.
Cool. I know that you have a brand new baby boy.
Yeah, yeah.
Congratulations to you and Mrs.
Thank you.
Valentin.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, yes. 4 months old now.
Okay, and how's it going?
It's great. He's growing real big, too fast. He's already starting to make the weird baby sounds and everything like that. But it's definitely an exciting time. I definitely commend my wife for all that she does. I mean, she's definitely phenomenal when it comes to, being the mother of our son.
Okay. It's an amazing journey. Enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Josh, tonight our discussion is leaps of faith and your journey to entrepreneurship and your journey to you, the person who you are now. So, can you tell me a little bit about your background?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm originally from East New York, Brooklyn. For those of you who don't know East New York,
Brooklyn!
for those of you who don't know East New York, it's sort of like the Compton of New York City, and it's just like one of the toughest neighborhoods in New York. And I grew up very humble beginnings, and I basically put myself through college. I went to a military structured college up in the Bronx, and a school called SUNY Maritime College. And at the time, it was the highest paying school, as far as starting salaries are concerned. And I went there to
Wow.
study international business. And, they had a cadet program where you join the regiment of cadets. And it's very like military structured. And I, sailed around the world on training ships. And that's actually where I met my wife. And
Okay.
went to school there, got my degree, got my Coast Guard license to operate ships. And after that, I also played football there, which was pretty cool. And that's how I actually ended up at Maritime. I got recruited to play football there.
Okay.
So, after doing my 4 years there, I got my bachelor's and my Coast Guard license. I was working in the maritime industry as a boat captain, and I was transporting millions of dollars worth of cargo around the country. And,
Okay.
it was a lot of responsibility, but it was great pay. And it was definitely exciting and fun. The only issue was the time. I was spending about 70% of my life working on the water. So, I hardly got to see any family or friends. And whenever I was home, it's just getting errands done and just working out whatever I can with the little bit of time that I had. So, that's basically how I started my entrepreneurship journey. At the time, I was looking up different businesses from franchising to real estate to investing and all those kinds of things. And I was blessed enough to be introduced to an opportunity that completely changed my life about 3.5 years ago. And I was working on the boats and doing my business part time. I was investing, learning the markets, those kinds of things. And within about 2 years or so, I was able to actually retire my career. I
Wow.
stayed very diligent. I stayed focused, and I was working my businesses part time. And within 2 years, I had retired my career and went full time as an entrepreneur. The title of this talk is Leaps of Faith, and I definitely went through that whole transition where I really had to take that leap of faith. It took a lot of courage, especially for someone like me, who grew up in poverty and, never knew what it was like to have like a nice, solid financial foundation. So, I had to get through a lot of the mental struggles, a lot of the mental blocks. And once I finally got through that, I would, through all the personal development and the seminars, I know you, Margaret, you go to similar seminars as I do. And,
Yes.
I did a lot of that, a lot of reading. At the time, I was probably reading about 6 books a week,
Wow.
just blowing through the books. And, I listen to audio while I'll be driving the boat, up in the middle of the night, and just soaking myself up in personal development and things like that. And definitely worked up enough courage. I mustered up the courage to be able to finally take that leap of faith and went all out. And I mean, ever since then, it's been the greatest decision of my life. I'm a full-time dad, full-time husband. I have all the time freedom in the world, which is pretty cool. My wife and I, we get to travel around the world with our son. And, he's already getting stamps on his passport, and he's only 4 months old. But, it's been a phenomenal journey. Also, just being able to mentor, so many people around the world, being a positive influence on their lives. I've been very fortunate to be able to play that role. So it's been good. It's definitely been good these past few years.
That's a blessing. And I see your baby. I saw those Disney pictures. That was a beautiful shot. Beautiful shot.
Yeah.
So
Thank
Josh,
you. Yeah.
tell me, you said you had to get over some mental hurdles. Can you talk to me a little bit about your biggest hurdle?
Yeah, absolutely. Growing up in somewhere like East New York and growing up on welfare and those kinds of things, you develop a scarcity mentality. And that was definitely the biggest issue for me. I had to get over the scarcity mentality and sort of be willing to let go. I always had that feeling that like there was never enough. Okay. And once I was able to finally get over that scarcity mentality, it just opened up my eyes and my mind to just attracting more abundance into my life. And I've always been into personal development. I mean, since I was about 17 years old, I was always into things like psychology and philosophy and those kinds of things. So in terms of like finding joy in learning and growing as a person, I always found a lot of joy in that aspect of my life. So I definitely had an advantage, being that I found so much joy in learning and growing as a person. And that's how I was able to go through so many books and sort of attract the mentors in my life that I needed to attract. And, but that was one of them. That was definitely one of them. And, I'd never been exposed to that much money in my life. None of my parents ever made salaries, and, none of them didn't necessarily, none of them basically graduated from high school. None of them even have a high school education. So, for me to grow up from that and go from that to making 6 figures in the maritime industry, it was a very, very difficult thing to do, just to let go of that income and sort of just take that leap of faith into entrepreneurship. Because, as far as entrepreneurship is concerned, there's no guaranteed income. There's no set salary. And a lot of the times you're going to be overworked and underpaid in the beginning. And, the advantage that I had, though, was the fact that I was able to work my business part-time. For those who are listening to the podcast or the webinar, I started out in direct sales, and I was in the travel industry and started investing and stock and those kinds of things. And these were things that I could do while working on the boats, and not everyone is very fortunate to have a business model that'll work around their schedule. And that was definitely the case for me. I can sort of mess up and repeat and just go along the journey. But to answer your question, yeah, it was definitely the mentality, bring up the courage, I can do it. And worst case scenario, I'm either gonna win or I was gonna learn. There was on this journey. I wasn't having any children, so I just went all out. And worst case scenario, we live in America, I'll just get another job and figure it out as I go. But it was definitely a great decision.
Okay. Did you always want to be an entrepreneur? Did you have that? Was that maybe a dream as a child?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually talked to my wife a lot about that. And, it's funny because I was always an entrepreneur from a kid. I can literally remember times where, I'd start a fire hydrant. I get a fire hydrant, and in the summer in Brooklyn, they open up the fire hydrants, and I'd wash cars. I'll have all my friends working for me, and they'll be washing the cars, and I'd invest in the soap and the buckets and all that, and we'll make money doing things like that. I was always buying and selling things, and always, I mean, even throughout college, I had my own little barbershop running out of my dorm room. And seriously, and you know, I'll be cutting hair out of my dorm room. I had a huge clientele in college. I was the only barber on campus.
Okay.
You know, so even while I was on the ship, I'd be able to make money. And I never had a broke day in college, you know, because I was always, you know, finding some kind of hustle, something that I can do to make some money, even if it was just shoveling people's snow. You know, if I was shoveling snow during blizzards, I'd make money doing that. I can just name countless times where I was just turning profits. And so I'd say I'm definitely one of those rare individuals who sort of was born into entrepreneurship. And I'd say in the ghetto, it's definitely, entrepreneurship is embraced in the ghetto. You know, whether it's illegal or legal, it's very embraced. And so that's sort of, yeah, exactly. It's survival of the fittest, and it's by any means necessary. So, you know, my parents were very open-minded when it came to things like entrepreneurship. So, yeah, I went through a weird phase though, because as I approached like my senior year in high school, I remember defining success as, you know, someone in a suit and tie, you know, with a BlackBerry, and I was working as a deckhand in the New York Harbor. You know, serving the wealthy people on a dinner charter boat. And I remember seeing these corporate executives, you know, on their BlackBerries and just enjoying life, and, you know, and you could tell that they were wealthy. And I used to define success as that, you know. No one as a kid really defines success as someone who's selling products or services. You know, when you see yourself in that, you know, that office with the nice tie, and and then I went through this whole phase, but I really started to embrace entrepreneurship again, working on the boats, you know, just learning from mentors and really seeing that. So, you know, it was a weird, like sort of like a roller coaster for me throughout the years.
What was it about being an entrepreneur that attracted you?
Yeah, I'd say the freedom that comes behind it, the freedom, the significance from creating something wonderful and being able to impact lives. You know, nothing against jobs or being an employee, but the only thing with that is just you're so limited to what you can do with it. A lot of the times it's just really one guy, you know, or one lady who's really living their dreams at a high level, you know, the person who's ever at the top, whether it be the co-founders or the CEO. But as far as being an employee, it's not the most rewarding thing in the world. For most employees, you know, some employees really love what they do, but in my case, you know, I enjoyed what I did for a living. But in terms of being fulfilled, you know, I wouldn't say I was necessarily fulfilled. I'm a firm believer that God placed me in this world to do greater things, and working as a boat captain definitely wasn't going to be one of them. I knew that there was more for me to do, more for me to serve, a lot more money for me to make, and you know, I always say I had to sacrifice a good life for a great life, and you know, it really, the whole entrepreneurship journey, you know, just seeing my mentors and the things that they were doing, the lives that they were impacting, really opened up my mind to entrepreneurship.
Okay. So getting inside your head a little bit, because one of the things I like to do on this show is I like to have the viewers see people who are living their dreams, right? And we want to live our dreams too. So looking at you and listening to your experience, I like to go deeper inside so that people understand how you really felt, that you probably did have fears, and you told yourself certain things, you represented certain things to yourself, and then you took that leap of faith. Yeah. So tell me, coming from, you know, Compton, the New York Compton, you know, East New York, and growing up how you did, and then going through this stage of what you thought success was, and landing a pretty good job, 6-figure income from, you know, from where you came from. You said, you know, your parents didn't do this. Whole different mentality, whole different, you know, whole different ball game, right? And then, but it provided maybe a sense of security. You were spending a lot of time there on the boat, you said, but you saw this opportunity and it was attractive. You wanted the freedom. You started to dream bigger. You have you now have mentors and you see what successful people are doing and there are things that you want to achieve, right? So one of your biggest obstacles, you said, that you had to personally get over was a scarcity mentality. What did you have to tell yourself? What else did you have to tell yourself to step into that greatness, to leave the good life for the great life?
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, it's I think really just putting things into perspective. One of the things that I've really embraced over the years, and I've gotten better at, is just putting things into perspective. I always ask myself, what's the worst case scenario? And 99.9% of the time, it's not death. It's just some temporary setback.
Wait, Josh, I've seen some of the things you do on your pictures. You're an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. In terms of adventure, I think I'm an adventurer by nature. So entrepreneurship just happened to be the perfect profession for me. And I always put things into perspective. And I spoke to some of my mentors, and they basically told me the same thing. You're either going to win or you're going to learn. You've got to take a leap of faith sometime. And one thing I will tell you, it's very funny how the day that I decided to cut the cord on my career, I literally had to report to work the next day. And this is not like just a job that I go to, that's 20 minutes away from my home. I had to fly to work.
Wow.
So I remember watching a Steve Harvey video, and I'm not sure if you saw it or not, but it's basically on making that leap of faith and letting your parachutes open up so that you can soar. And it was just an analogy for people who want to achieve their dreams. And I remember him saying, like, he painted this whole vivid image of someone who's at the cliff, and they see all these people living out their dreams, soaring in their parachutes, and you have this parachute on your back. Yeah, and exactly. And you have to make this leap of faith, and it's scary because you see the cliff and you see all the way at the bottom. But he said what you have to do is you jump off and you open up the parachute. And he said what's going to happen is the parachute will not open up right away. You're going to get bumps and bruises on the way down, right going down the cliff, and you're going to get scarred up, but eventually the parachute will open and you will soar. And that analogy always stuck with me because I told myself, there's no entrepreneur, there's no successful person in life who has accomplished all that they've accomplished without going through the struggle. And there's no deviating around the struggle. You have to embrace the struggle because every successful person is going to go through it. And the thing about the struggle and adversity and obstacles that you have to overcome is that that's what makes you grow. That's what makes you appreciate the reward when it's all said and done. The journey is what makes you grow. So I was at that point where I put things in a perspective. Like I have to earn my stripes. I've got to get my war wounds and get in the trenches and get beat up a little bit. And I was willing to live with that. I was willing to live with the fact that I had to embrace the struggle and I had to go through these obstacles. But eventually my parachute was going to open and I was going to soar. So, yeah.
So tell me now, Josh, what did it feel like when your parachute finally opened up?
Yeah, well, I can tell you this. I don't think there's ever a destination for any like real entrepreneur. I don't think, I remember a great mentor of mine had used the analogy of with entrepreneurship, it's like you're on a sailboat and you can see the horizon and, you're always on this voyage towards this horizon, to the promised land. But you go through all these obstacles, the seas, the storms, the winds, everything, but you never really reach the promised land. You're always striving towards the horizon. And it's the same with entrepreneurship because you may get to a point, but it never stops there. There's always bigger and better things that can be accomplished. So, in terms of my parachute opening, I'd say, I wouldn't say that I'm still, I'm kind of going through the bumps and bruises, just like any entrepreneur goes through. But it's just so much more rewarding to know that I'm doing, what God intended for my life, and I'm willing to go through the struggles consistently. And, the parachute for me is just the fact that I can wake up every single day and know that I'm living my purpose. And that's the true parachute, because you're still going to get the bumps and bruises along the way. But at the end of the day, if you can truly say that you're living your true potential and you're living your calling in this lifetime, that's true satisfaction in life. That's true joy. And I'm in that phase. Just the fact that I can travel the world, do what I want, when I want, how I want, for as long as I want. As Tony Robbins says, that's true success. And but you do have the bumps and bruises, and you have to go through it. And whether you're an employee or you're an entrepreneur, you're gonna have to go through it anyway.
Yeah.
So why not go through it chasing your dream?
You're right.
Yeah.
You are absolutely right about that. So tell me a little bit about your purpose and you finding your purpose.
Yeah, definitely. It's crazy because I think I was reading, it may have been The Purpose-Driven Life, and then I read another book by, I think, Deepak Chopra. It may have been the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. But I remember reading these books, and there were a few questions that were really aha moments for me. And one of those questions was, what weird interests do I have? Like, what did God put in Josh's mind that he's just strangely obsessed with? And there were certain things, like I'm a big space buff. I love astronomy. It's probably my first dream to be an astronomer.
Wow.
And I love traveling. I'm addicted, highly addicted to travel. And another question that they asked was, if you can, what would you do with your time if money weren't an option? And for me, it was traveling and helping people. I knew those were the 2 things. If I never got paid for anything, I knew that I would still do those 2. So when I realized the answer to those questions, I knew I was in alignment with my purpose, because I was already in the travel industry for my business. And, I was doing things like helping people. I was doing humanitarian projects, building schools in third world countries, going to places like India and teaching children on nutrition and health, refurbishing schools in these places, and working with the elderly, all kinds of humanitarian stuff. So, I finally got to that point where I was like truly living my purpose. And once I got to the point where I can travel on a consistent basis, that's when I was in real alignment with my purpose. But in terms of going forward, it's really just serving as many people as I possibly can. I have a life coaching business as well, so I work with and mentor private clients, and with that, it's just, I think, just really living and being a true example for people, a true role model for people to follow. And sort of like chasing this ultimate journey, as in terms of being that ideal, like, not perfect person, because none of us are perfect, but getting as close to perfect as I can be in terms of mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, all those things. And I felt like I definitely had a lot of value, and I still have a lot of value to offer to the world. In terms of, just getting over those mental blocks and things like that. So, my purpose in this lifetime is definitely to teach people and inspire and motivate them to live to their truest potential. And that's why I'm on this podcast. Yeah.
If there is one piece of advice that you can give to someone who is just starting out, someone who is scared crapless out of their mind about wanting to step forward, take a leap of faith on something that their soul is yearning to do, what is it that you would tell that person?
Yeah. The thing that a lot of people I find steer away from is the fact that they have to sell. I don't care what it is that you aspire to do, whether you want to be an artist or you want to be, a construction foreman, own your own company, you know, you want your own practice as an attorney, whatever the case may be, you have to sell. And a lot of people sort of drift away and kind of like try to work their way around the fact that they have to sell. So, you know, I'd say sort of never throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm not sure if you've heard that phrase, but you know, if you're working your job, find a way to incorporate your business with your job. Find a way to sell things and sort of test the waters. You know, get out there and play with your business a little bit, and you know, work on selling stuff. Whatever your product or service is, get used to selling, because you're gonna have to get really good at selling. No matter what it is that you do, even if you're not an entrepreneur, if you want to be an actor, you know, or a singer, you still have to sell yourself. There's just no getting around that. And one thing that I learned from my mentor early on was, if you have a specific industry, a specific interest, if you want to be the top 5% in any area in life, read the top 5 books on that subject or that topic or that industry or whatever it is. Read the top 5 books, because 95% of people are not going to be willing to do that. 95% of people are not going to read those 5 books. So by reading those 5 books, you already place yourself amongst the top 5%. So I definitely do that, you know, just to immerse yourself in whatever it is that you want to do, and find a way to sell it. I mean, there's so many great, you know, teachers in the field of business and personal development and those kinds of things. And you know, especially with YouTube and things like that, there's so many ways to learn for free, and you get so much more value.
The library.
Exactly. And it's a shame. I mean, less than 3% of America actually own library cards. And we have such an abundance. You know, I can literally pick up my phone and learn the world's greatest knowledge, you know, just by searching it on Google. So, but most people won't take advantage of it. You know, they won't take advantage of it. But if you're chasing a dream, you know, just get out there, immerse yourself, start surrounding yourself around people who are on the same page as you. You know, you're going to be the top 5 average of the people you spend the most time with, you know, whether it be spiritually, emotionally, financially, you're going to be the top 5, the average of the top 5 people you spend the most time with, you know. So it only makes sense to surround yourself around people who are excelling in what you want to do. And not only that, you'll also eradicate any of the negativity that you may experience, you know, at home or you know, at work. So yeah, definitely, you know, just put one foot in and keep one foot out for a little while until you can eventually, you know, make that leap of faith.
Okay. And I'll break in right here, right now, and say, if there anyone that wants to ask questions, they can type the questions in. I do have a question coming in, but I'll keep them till the end. But just to let the audience know that you can start submitting your questions for Josh. Josh, tell me, you said you were, I have a couple of questions and I don't want to forget them. How did you get into personal development?
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you asked that, because when I was 17 years old, I used to sell candies like chocolates and M&Ms and things like that out of a little box. Oh, excuse me, I put in my Snapchat up. But yeah, I used to sell these candies out of you know, a candy box when I was in high school. So I'd go to the library during lunch hours, and nobody really ate the school lunch food for some strange reason. But I'd go up to the library, I'd sell these chocolates in the library, and you know, there's a bunch of nerds. We were all up there, and I'd be selling these chocolates. And you know, since I was in the library, I would just pick up books and read them off the shelves. And you know, but fast forward, I think the reason why, if I just kind of rewind this a little bit, the reason why I had such an intense desire to read, I once had this, I guess you can say, my first mentor. When I was 12 years old, I used to make incense for this guy, and he taught me about entrepreneurship, and he'd sit me down for hours and you know, speak on all these philosophical things and you know, talk about astronomy and really deep things when I was 12 years old. And I always stayed with that intense curiosity. throughout my life. So when I was 17, you know, I remember being at a point where I read literally every book in the psychology section in high school. So,
Wow.
you know, I had a really, really intense desire to learn and to grow and just to know things that most people wouldn't be willing to learn. And that carried out throughout college and after college. When I got on the boats, I got back into the personal development and, you know, just started reading books on you know, finance and psychology and philosophy and all those things again. And, you know, just attracting the mentors into my life really, really changed the game for me, because they were able to basically guide me and teach me exactly what they did to get to where they are.
Okay. And why is it important to have mentors?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think almost every great person, you know, whether it be Alexander the Great, you know, having, I think it was Aristotle or Socrates, one of them, or just being, I mean, man, there's countless people who had like their first mentors, you know, whether it could be someone like, you know, Andrew Carnegie or Abe Lincoln. Everyone had some kind of mentor to sort of guide them along their journey. And the reason why having a mentor is so important, because you shorten the learning curve. You know, you can kind of learn from their failures. You don't have to go through all the trial and error to get from point A to point B. They can guide you and lead you, and also just having them in your circle of influence and just someone you can associate yourself with will automatically just start to attract opportunities and different knowledge and open up so many doors by having that mentor. You know, so I would definitely say, like, mentors, even if it's just a mentor from afar, you know, someone you can learn from on YouTube or things like that, it's vital. It's vital to success. And the more mentors you have, the better. But definitely find someone who has what you want in this lifetime. You know, someone who you're striving to be like.
Okay. So I have 3 questions here now. The first question is, was there a time that you felt like giving up and getting a job? What what made you get back on track?
Uh, you know, I wouldn't say give up. You know, I've never been a quitter. I've played sports my entire life, and you know, I've never had that quit bone inside of me. And I wouldn't say that that's the case for everyone, because I'm a firm believer that some people just don't have a quit bone inside of them, and then others, you know, they sort of just give in. I mean, a lot of people, you know, they'll test the waters and they're just not patient enough.
Okay.
They're just not patient enough. And I think patience and consistency are probably the 2 most vital traits that you can have as an entrepreneur, because you have to be very, very patient. And, you know, you just have to practice just sowing and reaping. And you're going to do a lot of sowing before you can reap any benefit. So I'm aware of that. So before I really like took that leap of faith, you know, I was aware that, okay, I'm going to have to give myself time. And you know, I've read the books. I've gone through hundreds of books, you know, from biographies to personal development. And I've studied a lot of really successful people. And many of them have gone through exactly what I'm going through. And I was just willing to embrace the fact that, okay, I'm going to have to take a similar journey. So I'm very patient and consistent with myself, you know, but you don't want to be patient and not consistent. A lot of people, you know, they try to wait it out and they're not taking enough action. And at the end of the day, action is going to be the #1 factor on whether you get, you know, from point A to point B. You have to take massive action, and you have to be consistent. You know, some people have little spurts, you know, maybe a week or 2 of massive action, and, you know, others, they just stay consistent over a long period of time. But yeah, I'm definitely a firm believer that for me, it's just I have a lot of awareness on what the journey takes, and having that awareness allows me to persevere no matter what. And you just become resourceful. You could when the going gets rough and your finances will be hit, and when that comes, you know, you just have to become very, very resourceful and figure it out. You know.
Okay. So we have a question here from Jerome. You spoke about your purpose being helping others. Is there a number in specific in which you feel you have to help, or just being able to help anyone is good enough for you?
Yeah, I think that really depends on you. It depends on the person. It depends on the business. It depends on the situation. I think it was Zig Ziglar who said, if you help enough people, get what they want, you eventually have what you want in life.
Mhm.
And so there's never a shortage of people who you can help. And I feel like if you can help a lot of people achieve their dreams, you can have ultimately anything. It's just good karma. You can have anything you want if you truly just help people, and mentor them and just pay it forward, especially when you make it in business. Just pay it forward to the next person, and that just reciprocates in every area of your life. And so I'd say, yeah, I think if you can help more people, why not? Why not? And there's no limit to the amount of people that you can help.
Okay. We have another question from Mike. If you could pick the brain of anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
That's a really good one. There's so many great people, from the Gandhis to the Mother Teresa's to the Steve Jobs to Aristotle's and Plato's and Nietzsche, and so many great ones, and so many people I've admired, over the years. But if I have to say, I don't even want to say Jesus Christ, because people don't really believe
You can
he
say it if you
died.
want to pick
You know,
his brain.
but I mean, I think ultimately Jesus Christ, the amount of influence that he's had, he's probably the most influential person in the flesh that has ever walked this planet. So he would definitely be first and foremost. Just the amount of compassion and just think of the power of what the ripple effect he's created over generations. And the would definitely be one of them. The second, I work on my son, from Alexander the Great, really, really active. He just lived to his earth, and I did in a very powerful way. He was very strategic and of courage. So he probably.
Okay. And there's another question. How do you block out the negative noise from everyday life?
Yeah, definitely. I think you need a filter. You need a filter in this lifetime. Negativity, there's no getting around it. We all experience negativity. You can never fully get around negativity. I think what you have to develop a habit of is speaking to yourself and in a positive way, and being aware of your negative self-talk, because a lot of us go through our day and not even being aware of all the negative self-talk that we have. And I actually recommend the book that my mentor recommended to me. It's what to say when you talk to yourself by Shad Helmstetter. It's a great book, and it just goes into the negative self-talk and things that you say to yourself on a day-to-day basis. But I constantly fill my mind with positive affirmations or incantations, just things like that on a consistent basis. I went through a phase where I sort of, I don't want to say feared what other people thought of me, but it was always on the back of my mind what someone else is thinking of me. And many people who are listening to this right now are going to go through that phase where you're sort of always concerned about what other people think of, or you're concerned with the rejection. And to overcome that, I literally had to tell myself on a consistent basis, that I could care less. I could give a rip about what other people think about me. And I just tell myself over and over and over until I just manifested it into my belief system. And I really am at that phase where, you know, I'm just over it. A lot of it is just ego, you know, it stems off of ego, and it's just your survival mechanism really working against you. So, you know, if you can get over that, and like I was mentioning earlier, just law of association, stay away from negative people. If people aren't going where you're going in this life, you've got to cut them off. And, you know, as far as home, it's a little bit more difficult to get away from negativity at home. You know, if that's the case, if you've got to move out, you know, I mean, move out seriously, because, you know, it could have such a terrible effect on your progress. You know, you'll be mentally and spiritually drained to take any kind of action. So that would be my answer to that question.
Who, the author of the book, I'm putting it out here in the post in case anyone's interested. What to say when you talk to yourself. Who's the author?
Shad Helmstetter is SHAD Helmstetter, yeah. Helmstetter, one of them, yeah.
HELM something, dot.
Yeah.
I'm sure if they Google just the name of the book and Shad, it'll come up.
Yeah, definitely.
But I wanted to show you this picture because my boyfriend actually texted this to me today. I'll read it to you. I don't know if you can see it there. Can you see it? Is it all light?
Yeah. I can see.
You see, it's a picture of a donkey with a man and a woman, and they're four different sayings, right? So the first one says, and they're people viewing them, right?
Yeah.
So the people who are viewing them sitting on the donkey, they say, 2 people on a donkey's back, poor animal. The second box, the woman is walking and the man's on the donkey. Now they're now saying, how cruel is he letting his wife walk? The third box down here, she's on the donkey, and they're saying how stupid he is letting his wife take the ride alone. And the last one, where they're both walking, and it says, fools don't even know how to utilize the donkey. So no matter what you do,
Yep. Yeah.
you know, I think at some point it's like, it's almost, I don't even want to say human nature, that people will comment. But I just, you know, I finished reading this book, The War of Art.
Oh yeah, it's a great book. Yeah.
Oh, it was awesome. I actually emailed the author.
Yeah, I saw that, Stephen Pressfield.
Yeah.
That's pretty remarkable that you replied. Yeah. Nice.
I emailed Seth Godin too, and he emailed me back.
Nice.
But he's emailed me back before. He responds.
Okay.
But so what I was saying, going back to my original point here, he talks slightly about, it ties in, but it's a little different. So he talks slightly about, you know, when he first made it to the big screen, and it was a flop. I think he did one of the King Kongs, and it was a flop. And he was feeling so bad about himself. And one of his friends kind of pulled him out of the depression and said, you know, you're in the game.
Yep.
You had a failure, but guess what? You're not on the where you want to be. So get over it. Yep. And that was so profound to me, because it's almost kind of like what you just said. And, you know, it's like you live your life, you do what feels right to you, right? You define your own success, and people are going to talk. They're going to say something, but guess what? When you are where you want to be, it doesn't even matter, you know, what they say.
Exactly.
You know,
very true.
And then there's this saying too, that people only talk about people who are doing stuff, right?
Yep.
So, you know, so that's one of those things, you know, you just got to do what feels right for you, and have integrity, you know, to yourself and your family and what you put out there.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. Very true.
So it is tradition here at Lifestyle by Design that you leave the audience with 3 action steps that they can implement into their lives right away to start living their dreams.
Definitely. There's a few. Yeah, there's definitely a few. Actually, I think I wrote something down here on like 3 key concepts that I really wanted to stress for people in terms of accomplishing their dreams and just living their life. One thing I would definitely say is the fact that I once heard from a great mentor of mine, you are who you say you are until you prove otherwise. And that's is so true when you really put it into scope, because you're always going to be enough. There's no shortage, there's nothing wrong with you or nothing wrong with society or anything like that. You are enough. If you say you're a leader until you prove otherwise. And the thing about it is, most people, their actions are going to be a direct reflection of their value system, their beliefs, their limiting beliefs, and who they identify themselves to be. So if you identify yourself as a pessimistic person or an introverted person, or a shy person, that's your actions are going to hold you back from doing the things that require you to be courageous or require you to be outgoing. So you literally have to rewire your mind, just the mindset. Success is really just a mindset. They talk about the 98% versus the 2% mentality, and most people have to make that transition into the 2% mentality. There's a reason why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, because the rich people, they surround themselves around people who are rich. They have the mental fitness to be able to attract these kinds of things into their life. So, the first thing would definitely be just to state who you are. You can always recreate your identity. And one thing that I do is I sort of have my value system that I read every single day, stating things like, I'm a confident person, I'm a strong person, I'm bold, I'm adventurous. And the reason why I get to travel the world and go on all these adventurous things is because that's who I identify myself to be. When people think of Josh Valentin, they think of someone who's adventurous. They think of someone who's an entrepreneur. If you identify yourself as a construction worker, or someone who works in retail, that's your actions are going to be a reflection of who you identify yourself to be. So I definitely stress for people to sort of create your identity, state who you are, write it down, what type of person you are, and just live that every single day. And you'll begin to attract a lot of things. Another thing is definitely law of association. Law of association is so vital. By the way, can you see me still? I know
I can see you.
Okay, yeah, I sort of kind of block myself out a little. Okay, there you go. Law of association, just attracting, a lot of positive people into your life. Just get around people who are successful. One thing that I did when I was struggling as an entrepreneur, when I first retired my career, I intentionally surrounded myself around my good friend Victor. And he had what I wanted in terms of finances and success with our company. So I intentionally surrounded myself around him on a day-to-day basis, and to the point where, everything changed for me. Everything elevated. The finances, reaching milestones in my business, and to the point where we finally just caught up to him. My wife and I, we do business together, and we've attracted some amazing people, in our business careers. And, a big reason is because we just don't surround ourselves around people, who don't have what we want. And I'm not saying to cut off your friends entirely, but you need to love a lot of friends and family at a distance. You need to have very strategic, relationships with people who can provide value for you, and you can provide value for them. And then the third thing I would say is, going back to purpose. You asked me earlier about finding my purpose. Ask yourself those questions. What's the weird thing that you're interested in? What's one thing that God placed in your heart that interests you? It may be fashion, it may be art, it may be construction, it could be anything. But what's the thing that interests you and excites you that you can do every single day of your life, even if you didn't get paid for it? That's how you'll find your purpose in this lifetime. And also, the law of dharma. The law of dharma states, in every lifetime, the highest calling or purpose in this lifetime is to find out what are your gifts and talents and how you can use them to serve humanity. And I think that's the highest calling for anyone, to find what it is that you're gifted at, you're talented at, and just pay it forward by serving humanity in some major way.
Okay. I think, say something, Josh.
Yeah. Can you hear me on that end?
Okay. Yeah. The audio went out a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. Just checking for any last minute questions.
No problem.
Okay. So I want to thank you. And I usually ask 3 fun questions right before we go.
Okay.
What's your favorite app?
My favorite app, I definitely would say Evernote. The reason being is because I can put my life's work into Evernote. and I always tell my wife, if anything ever happened to me, log into my Evernote. I literally have voice notes to my son. If anything happened to me, like he can listen to my voice, and I have messages there for him and my wife. I have everything from books that I'm working on to some of the best wisdom that I've ever learned. It's on my Evernote. If I ever lose my phone, I still have my Evernote account. So it's up there, it's up in the clouds, and my life's work, everything is on there. I think I even have the death plan laid out for me if anything ever happened, what to do. But yeah, it's on there. I love the fact that I can pull up my Evernote, on any account, wherever I go, on any device, and it's a pretty remarkable app. And I definitely would say that is by far my favorite app.
Okay. Somebody wants to know if you have any brothers.
Yeah, I have an older brother and a younger brother. I have Toby's the younger one. Kevin is the older one.
Oh, maybe that's Kevin. KV is the initials there.
Oh, okay. Probably.
Shout out. I don't know. Did you want to shout out? Okay. So what book has impacted you the most? I don't know if that's a fun question, but
Yeah. Well, it may sound cliche, but it's definitely the good book, the Bible. The Bible, there's so much wisdom. There's timeless wisdom in the Bible. And, I always get something new out of it. There's amazing stories with really good messages. If I had to pick another one, for those who aren't necessarily Christian, I'd say, wow, there's so many good ones. But if I had to say one that really, really changed my mindset in terms of like getting rid of my ego, it would probably be The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Okay.
The power of now, just being very present. And, because at the end of the day, all you really have is the here and now. The future and the past are just an illusion. The here and now is definitely all that you have. And just being willing to let go of your ego and live, in the present moment, and to be able to really embrace what's going on right here, right now, whatever experience you're going through. So it allowed me to be more aware of my ego, and also, just be able to immerse myself in whatever I'm experiencing at the moment, and just being completely present.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no shout out from Terrell at Miss Wendy's house. That came through. And here's a fun question from Mike. If someone were to play you in a movie, who would you pick?
Definitely, I'd say Johnny Depp. I love Johnny. He's probably my favorite actor. I just love his style. I love his weirdness. He's just a very interesting person. And, I'm very obsessed with the character Jack Sparrow. So,
okay.
Yeah, so I definitely say it would have to be Johnny. Yeah.
Okay. And Josh, one last question. What do you do for fun?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost is travel. Travel is my number one activity that I love to do, by all means. And then it may sound weird or nerdy, but I genuinely love to read and to look at, listen to audios and watch documentaries. I love you can ask my wife. I can go hours and hours watching, how the universe is created, or just learning philosophy or learning psychology. I remember Tony Robbins saying he had this, intense desire to learn. He was a learning machine. And I feel like I definitely was born with that mindset, just an addiction to learning and being a seeker of truth, just figuring out how things work. And I'm very in tune with spirituality and how it relates to psychology and science and those kinds of things. So that's I can literally go hours and entertain myself, just from my smartphone, and I'll be completely fine. For my birthday, I think that's what I did, just kind of kick back, and my ideal day, it looks like that. So, yeah.
Okay. You should check out The Brain. It's a series on PBS by David Eagleman. Okay. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's pretty fascinating.
Nice,
I'm obsessed with that.
I'll definitely check it out.
Very, very interesting stuff about the brain and how we learn.
Nice.
Okay, so Josh, I want to thank you for spending your Thursday night here, and definitely. I want to give a shout out to your wife, who's also your business partner.
Absolutely.
We always know behind a good man, there's always a very good woman.
Most definitely.
So, shout her out too.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you. I really want to thank you for sharing your story. I want to thank you for honoring yourself. I want to thank you for not being afraid to leave the good life for the great life.
Absolutely.
And for being a dreamer and dreaming big, and knowing, that you can, this is within your power, and for exercising your personal power, which I think is one of the greatest gifts that God has given us. Definitely. And a lot of us don't exercise it. And
Absolutely.
You are exercising your power. You are choosing to live intently and on purpose. And you are also choosing to help others and bring them up along with you. So I want to thank you very much, and I honor and for sharing your story, and I wish you much success in your life, to you and your family. And again, thank you.
Thank you so much, and I'm very honored at the fact that you even considered me for this podcast, and I want to thank you, and I want to congratulate you, because when we first met, you didn't even have the Lifestyle by Design podcast going, and I definitely want to commend you for chasing your dreams and going after what amuses you and what interests you, and I know this is a huge milestone in your life. So for those who are listening or watching, I'm sure Margaret has a lot of amazing people who are up and coming on the podcast. So definitely stay tuned, subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast. Would it be okay if I gave my social media handles to you?
Sure.
Listening? Okay. So for those who want to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram at The World Traveler. That's TheWorldTraveler, The World Traveler. You can find me on Facebook at Josh.Valentin2, or you can find me on Twitter at JValentin718. So, feel free to reach out to me. Let me know if you got any value out of this. If you message me, I do my best to, stay connected with the messages. And I definitely appreciate you even taking the time, to watch this or listen to this. And I commend you, because you're a part of that top 5%, who are going after their dreams and living life on a major scale. Just the last words I want to leave with everyone. If you are watching this and you're going after your dreams, keep pushing. A great mentor of mine once told me the only way through is through. And I just want to let you know that you are enough. You're great. You already were born with an amazing, amazing will to go after anything that you truly achieve, anything you want to achieve in this lifetime, anything you aspire to be. But you have to go through the struggle. Embrace the struggle. Keep pushing, and God bless.
Amen. Josh, what's your website?
My website is JAValentin.com. JAValentin.com. You can also connect with me on there as well.
Okay, so there we go. Thank you so much once again. And I want to shout out the audience and thank you guys so much for your patience and bearing with us with the technical difficulties. I want to thank you guys for also participating. And I wish you all a very good night and much success in your life. Remember, it's within your reach. You do have a power to create a life that you love. So good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.